All right, good morning, everyone. It's 9 o'clock, our official start time. Thank you for being here. We're going to give just another minute or so for a few others to join because I'm sure their alarms are all clicking and they're launching Zoom and all that right now. In the meantime, we've got some Halloween themed dad jokes for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I don't know if that was intentional that they put what can often be a scary topic with Halloween, but nevertheless, here we are. I think we had a couple dozen people registered and not. So give them, for those of you that are here already, thank you. Guess I will just give another moment and then we'll just let them join when they join. All right, we're going to begin. So again, welcome. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for looking at the Halloween themed dad jokes for security. This is me. I'm Jeremy Cherney, all dressed up for Halloween with the traditional Guy Fawkes mask. I don't know why the hacker community has adopted that. I should probably know that, but anyway. But welcome. Today we're talking cybersecurity. Some of this is scary. Some of this is interesting. Some of this is complex. Some of this is overwhelming. So just stay with it. Be curious. If you've heard this before, I see some names out there. Thanks for being back here. For those of you that are new, listen like you've never heard anything about security before. Because a tendency, when we've heard things we've heard before, we tend to kind of ignore and maybe not get that new info. I'm asking you today to kind of listen newly and see what it is that maybe you hear new that might inspire you into action or uncover a blind spot or even just have you sleep more soundly because you know you're safe and secure. The biggest thing today we're talking about is blind spots. There's things that you know about your security. You might know you have a firewall. There's something you maybe don't know that you don't know about your security. Like maybe you know you have a firewall, but you don't really know how firewalls work. But the blind spot would be that you think you have a firewall, you think you know how it works and that it's set up correctly, and then there's something misconfigured with it. That's the blind spot that you didn't know about. That's the truck in the side view mirror that you don't see in the side view mirror when you're going to merge lanes. So we're here today to, kind of assess your security posture, and we're going to do that by talking about best practices. Best practices around what? Around security. There's three things we think about when we think about security, and any of these would become a security incident or a security breach. The first is anything around confidentiality. Anything that is a breach of confidentiality is a security issue. If someone who is unauthorized gets access to information that they're not authorized to see, that's a breach of confidentiality. An integrity breach, if someone has changed data that is not authorized to change data, or done it in a way that is doing it to be malicious. That's an issue of integrity. And the last one, and I really want you all to think about this one because we're going to talk more about this, is availability. Can your data be accessed? People don't always think of downtime or, my computer crashed as a security incident. When it can jeopardize your business operations, we really want you to think of it as a security incident. Lots of headlines in the news about security always. I just added this last one here about OpenAI's GPT-4 can autonomously exploit 87% of one-day vulnerabilities, a study finds. Chat, that's one of the AIs. This is an AI conversation today, although we'll be talking about AI and security. But basically what they're saying is one of these automated, AI robots, after a vulnerability is disclosed, with a description, could actually write an exploit for that. I didn't explain that very well. Let me re-explain that. So what happens is when there's some new security issue that's brand new, something like a 0 day, they call it, like something that's never been seen before. Once they see it, they start to investigate it. And after they investigate it, they write up a description of it. Based on that description, the artificial intelligence, based on that description alone, was able to programmatically create exploits to attack those vulnerabilities. So it's getting real. So buckle up. This is going to be a roller coaster ride. Stick with it. Don't check out. If you're might be hey, Jeremy, I've heard this before. I'm just going to kind of listen to this while I check my email and stuff. That's fine if you want to do that. But again, you might miss something really important. The email will be there when you get back. The first thing we want to talk about is just trust. There's a whole world of trust that used to exist with security about what people thought security was, how it was configured, what was safe, what wasn't. Now that's just all out the window. The motto is trust no one. And I mean, like, trust but verify. You obviously have to work with people, but you don't assume that just because they've got a name or they've got this software or whatever that you're just going to be safe. Or don't just assume because you have never had this problem before that you're not going to have this problem in the future. You want to debunk the myths that are leaving you vulnerable. And one of them is kind of a head in the sand sort of approach, or just an assumption that I got a guy, I'm covered, that kind of a thing. Or I use, Google and Microsoft and Apple and I'm covered. What I'm saying is debunk that myth because I can show you with evidence that they are reliably attacked and breached all the time. One of the big things that people are still out to do is ransomware. This is a very old screen for ransomware, but I love it just because it's kind of charming, but it really speaks to what happens. So ransomware is when your computers are taken over. Someone gets in, they get into your systems, and they run some software that locks up all your data in a way that you can't get access to more. You can see that you've got locked up data, but you just can't get at it. And then what they'll do is they'll start the clock going, just like in a movie, get a lot of urgency going, getting you excited and scared and all of that. And you should be, and concerned. And what do you do next? And, they want you to pay a ransom. Now, this one's really old and it's kind of quaint. Send $300 worth of Bitcoin. That is a very low ransom by today's standards. It's thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars if they think they can get it. And then you hope that if you have to pay the ransom, that they're going to give you your data back. And if you look at some of these big companies that are getting hit, some of them are paying the ransom. So what does that mean? That means they may not be fully protected the way they thought of recovery, or they're concerned they didn't protect the data on its way out so that they're vulnerable that way. And then hoping that the extortionists, these criminal masterminds that are doing this work, are going to hold to their agreements and return the baby after you give the money. And by and large, they do, because, we think of them, as criminals, but they really run really well like a business, if one can say such a thing. So a lot of you were probably protected from ransomware, and it's not back in the day, it was pretty unusual. Now it's pretty common. So you might be able to recover and all of that. But what they're doing automatically is what's called data exfiltration. The hackers are taking your data outside your system before they encrypt it, so you don't know that it's happening. And then they will usually, after they start the ransomware, they'll send you kind of like, sending the finger in a sick way from, the ransom type things to show they've got the person. They're going to send your data back to you and say, look, we've got your data. Now, data exfiltration is not just for hackers. This could also be for somebody leaving the organization who's trying to take data on the way out. And there's ways to protect that. But it's a concept you want to know about because, this is your data. This is what you're really trying to protect. And so if someone gets it that shouldn't have it and then can see it that shouldn't see it, you might be in a pickle. Who's doing it? Who knows? It could be anybody. Like I said, it could be someone inside your office, either, leaving to start their own business or go somewhere else or just holds a grudge. There's organized cybercrime. This is someone's day job is to go hack and attack and try and get ransomware. There's script kiddies, there's cyber terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism, that's real, stuff that's happening against our elections, some of the stuff that's happening against, you see hospitals getting attacked, things like that. These could be coming either from state-sponsored or state condoned in the sense that, well, if some of their, people in Russia want to attack the US, even though it's not official Russian military, we might be okay with that. So it's vast, it's wide, it's everywhere. It's all kinds of motives, just pure money, pure vengeance, pure power. Who knows? Um, and it's no longer just the person sitting alone in the basement hacking away. These are really organized groups now. They work together. They specialize. Like ransomware is one kind of specialty, but in order to infect a system with ransomware, you have to first get access to the system. Some ransomware people, they're not good at that, or they're not interested in doing that. So guess what? They can buy access from other hackers. And I just use the term hacker generically. There's a lot of different terms for this, but I'm just calling that anybody that's the bad guy here. It's ransomware as a service. It used to be, you know, you wanted to have somebody do something bad on somebody's behalf, you'd have to, like meet them in a park and exchange an envelope full of money or something like that. Now you can go online and with a credit card, you can go attack somebody. You can. It's not hard. This stuff is trivial. They work together. They've got business plans, business models, affiliate systems. It's scary and it generates a lot of dough and a lot of money, and a lot of whatever they want. And I'm talking like lots of money, millions of dollars. So it's lucrative. And so guess what? They're going to keep doing it. Um, and here's the thing, you are under constant attack. You have to be right 100% of the time. They have to be right once. So I say this with all seriousness and not really to scare you. It's not if, but when and how bad. And I have evidence. I guarantee if I go look at your firewall right now, I will see evidence right now of people trying to break through your firewall thousands of times a day. And the firewall's, doing its job by and large. I guarantee if I check your email logs, you're going to get some emails that came through that were phishing attempts. They had malicious attachments. The stuff just isn't perfect. It's happening all the time. So it is happening, and you're just counting on your people not to click on the right thing or the wrong thing, I should say. So I want you just to be thinking about that. Not like it's hopeless, but just to be on that kind of war footing in this kind of thing, because it's a battle. Um, This is also something really important I want you to get is at least out of this presentation and from what I want to communicate to you all, which is security is a process. It is not a product. It's not just something you're going to buy, plug in, and now you're secure. There's things you buy and plug in that are part of security, but really it's the process. And what we're talking about today are best practices. So according to, whatever dictionary, a best practices is a procedure that has been shown by research and experience to produce optimal results. What kind of results are out there, folks? Optimal results, not suboptimal, not subpar, not mediocre, but optimal. Now, it doesn't say perfect, but it says optimal results. And then trust me, around security, this is a place where you don't want mediocre results. This is a place where you want optimal results. You want to have the best shot at avoiding or surviving the inevitable. First place we start is with security assessment. These come in all flavors. These can be big, long, lengthy projects, or these can be very short questionnaires, depending on how deep you need and what you want to do. But I advise you to at least get a basic one. We offer a free one of a conversation. We can go deeper on them. And like I said, they can get very extensive if you need them. But I advise you to start somewhere. You really want to know what you've got. What are you trying to protect? And then what are you trying to protect it from? And where are you vulnerable? What do we see? Let's find out if you have any blind spots. You might have a device on your network that you didn't know was insecure and might be a risk. You may not know that one of your team is now using some application that they found on the cloud that, or some app or whatever, and they're using that and you didn't know that. And now you've got data sitting out there. You just want to know this kind of stuff. Knowledge is power when it comes to this. You may have find a lot of things to fix. You may not find much to fix, but if there's something to fix, I'd like you to know about it. And you probably want to know about it too. And this is really the best way to find out. No matter what happens, like I said, it's not if, but when and how bad. And if it's this bad where you need your cyber liability insurance to kick in, you want to make sure you've got good cyber liability insurance. You want to make sure you have cyber liability insurance. You'd like to make sure that it covers your business needs in terms of payouts and things like that. By the way, we're not cyber liability insurance experts, so we don't speak to it from that perspective, other than we're saying, look, there's a point in time when people need this stuff. And this is one you want to make sure you've got proper coverage for, because this can get very expensive depending on what the problem is. And the other thing is there's provisions now they're putting in. One of our clients sent us one of the policies, and there was a section in there about keeping your software patched and updated. And that if you were a subject of a security issue where there was a known patch that was older than a certain period of time, they were going to start reducing the payouts. And that makes sense, right? If there's a known issue out there that can be easily patched, maybe you should do that. But the point is, a blind spot for people is their policy may not pay out like they think it's going to pay out. That would be a big blind spot. So you want to make sure you've read your policy, you understand what, procedures are to follow, what provisions, any requirements of insurability, any of that kind of thing, so you don't have a blind spot there. I am telling every business owner, these are the number one priorities for you. Business continuity plans and disaster recovery plans. The disaster recovery plan, that's what, when the server crashes or you get the ransomware, how we restore you and get your system back up and running. But what do you do in the meantime? How do you keep your business running? This is serious stuff. One of our clients got hit with one of their cloud providers was down for over a month, and they could not sell or service their customers easily. They started having to do spreadsheets and things like that. One of our clients used a cloud-based system where they were using CrowdStrike as their antivirus, which again, fine product, human error. CrowdStrike caused millions of computers to go down and massive issues and downtime for days or weeks for some people. So you want to be planning for this stuff. Like, yeah, it's not if, but when and how bad. If it's a day, you might be fine. How are you going to operate without your computers for a month? It could happen. It has happened. It's happening reliably. How many of you were using the uh, Ascension, or I'm sorry, yeah, Ascension for your healthcare in Milwaukee and couldn't access your medical records for over a month? That's a big billion-dollar business down for a month. So if they aren't able to handle this, how are you going to do it? I recommend you sit down and start planning. We'll talk a bit more about that because these disasters happen all the time. I mean, we just saw what happened in Florida, laying waste to places, um, North Carolina. I mean, this was Joplin, Missouri in 2011, before and after satellite photos, right? I mean, it's just devastating. And if your system was in there, you're gonna have a real challenge. And you might think, well, I've got my stuff in the cloud and I'm gonna be good, but let's talk about that because all these other people think they have their systems in the cloud and then they're down for a month. So here's the thing, with most of these services you sign, they have what's called a cloud shared responsibility model. This is Microsoft's, but they all have them in some form or another, which basically says, in the end, you have all the responsibility for your data. So this could be a blind spot for you if you think they are responsible for your data and that they're going to help you when you're hacked and breached and all that kind of stuff. Or that's going to be their fault if your cloud data is breached. Check your terms of service. You've probably already waived all kinds of rights and remedies, and you probably have some very specific things about what you are and are not responsible for. Those data centers are sometimes, they're physical locations. We think of them as a cloud, but they're not. They're buildings sitting in different cities with different construction and different stuff, and they're basically just rooms full of servers and batteries. And this is one in Europe. There was a battery fire, and this data center got destroyed. If there were people using that data center for their cloud applications and they were not following best practices, guess what? Their whole system was lost. And that happened for some major sites because they just didn't design things properly. So, again, that myth, I'm talking about debunking these myths, these things we have in our head where we kind of give ourselves maybe a false sense of security. The I'm in the cloud, so I'm okay may or may not be okay. You just want to know what's there so you can protect yourself. And you want to know what your expectations are. The recovery time objective, right? Do you think that our client, that systems, couldn't sell or service their customers for over a month, that fit their recovery time objective of getting back online? The security event happens and the clock starts ticking. How quickly do you need to be back up and running? And if your data's corrupted and your systems are corrupted, how far back do you need to go? There's people out there operating with just a few days worth of backups, when studies show criminals are in for 200 days plus in some organizations. Maximum tolerable downtime. I guarantee a lot of people thought 30 days is what their maximum tolerable downtime was, and that got busted because like I said, these services are down for more than that now. You want to prepare for it. It's going to happen to you personally or professionally, you're going to be impacted. So your disaster recovery process. This is just a real quick bullet point. Again, you want to talk to somebody that knows something about this, but you want to plan for it. You want to make sure you know what your expectations are. You want to get a plan. You want to write a playbook, like on a case of emergency, break glass, pull out this playbook. Here's my phone number for my insurance company. Here's the people I need to call. Here's what's going to happen. Here's how we recover our systems. And then test it and do it regularly. Again, this is a big blind spot for people because I know a lot of people have good backup systems and they get a report that says everything is backed up. And for them, they think that means that they can recover okay in the case of a disaster. And it may not mean you can recover or recover in the way you think you can recover or the speed at which you can recover. You might be able to recover, but if you thought you get your data back in a day and it's going to take 3 weeks, well, that may be a problem for you. So you just want to know what that stuff is. And until you test it, it's the only time you're going to know. And restoring a file or two is helpful, but it's distinct from restoring all your systems. So we really recommend you do that. As a business owner, this should be one of your highest priorities. Next is business continuity planning. This is how you're going to operate when your systems are down. And your systems will be down. I don't wish this. I don't say it like with joy or any arrogance. The evidence is just, it's going to happen. Just a question of how bad and for how long. So I recommend you put together a plan. And I don't know what that plan looks like. I showed that picture before of the guest check. If you think about like a diner, like let's say you go to your favorite diner and they've been using these checks like this, writing up your order for years. And then one day you go in and they switch to iPads. And then a couple years later you go in and, the internet's down and they can't take your order. What do? They go into the drawer and they pull out their little guest checkbooks and they start writing up your order. What do you want, honey? 2 eggs burnt, bacon, crisp, coffee, black, all that. They write it down, they take it back to the kitchen, and then they try and take cash. That's a business continuity system while they're waiting for their internet to come up and their iPads to start working on. And I really recommend you get something for your business for critical processes. If you need hand walking through that, talk to us or talk to your IT provider. Software patching. I mentioned that the insurance before, they were going to reduce your rates if you were, or your payouts if you were not properly patching in a timely fashion. 70% of organizations that suffered a breach say it was because of something that went unpatched. These are the software updates. And I know that sometimes these patches cause problems. And IT people hate problems. And sometimes they don't patch stuff because they think, oh, it's going to create glitches. Well, you know what? We patch thousands of systems regularly. And sometimes, yeah, there's a glitch here and there. But by and large, most of it works fine. And you're better off having the security patch regularly and dealing with the sometimes the patch causes a glitch kind of a thing. Recommend it. And you may be required as part of your insurance. So might be something you have to do anyways. And this is patching all your applications. And guess what? Your computers doesn't just have like Microsoft Office and Sage and Windows. If you look not only what's in the add remove programs, but what's all the programs are actually on the systems, it's dozens, it's hundreds, it's thousands of components from different manufacturers. It's complex. So you need a good system for it. Because Equifax got hit. Big Equifax credit reporting agency. They had didn't patch one of their front end systems. Someone got in through that and used that to work its way through the rest of the system and steal all kinds of data. And all they had to do was patch the system. It was an available patch. It wasn't even like a 0 day where you're in a rush to wait for a patch and then try and get it done quickly. This was something that had been out there for a while. It's just poor process. Remember we talked about process before. It's just a poor process. They did not follow it. Passwords are important. You got to be watching out for your passwords. We're still in a password world by and large. There's other technologies coming out, or that are out rather, that are becoming more, people are seeing like pass keys and things like that. Passwords are still by and large the thing, and you want to make sure that you're using good long passwords, that you're doing good hygiene and getting rid of users that aren't, on their system anymore, things like that. But Colonial Pipeline got hit because they had a password out there that got compromised on a system and it took the pipeline down. If you guys remember that a few years ago, that was in the news because, oil, gas pipelines, lines, gas lines, politicians jump in. But they didn't have multi-factor authentication turned on. If they just had multi-factor authentication turned on for that password, none of this would have happened. So you want to enable multi-factor authentication everywhere. And I mean everywhere. And you want to look like, ferret out every account you use and make sure that it's got it. But especially your internet registrar, who manages your domain. Your email is critical. Make sure your email is protected with it. Any cloud application, banking. We recommend your workstations, your remote desktop, your VPN, your phones. By the way, your phone provider, make sure they've got multi-factor turned on for them so they can't take over your phone. You want to enable it everywhere. The authenticators and the biometric stuff or the keys are probably some of the best, but if you got to use text, you got to use text. But sometimes the text is, there's some known issues with that make it a little less secure. But yeah, we definitely recommend multi-factor. That is that second thing. We're all getting, or that, after you log in, putting in that code, and it's a pain in the butt. I get it. It's an extra thing. It's annoying. And it's going to save you. It already has, because for places right now where you have it turned on, probably people are trying to, attack that with known passwords. So, if it's not if, but when and how bad, if things are getting through all the time, including bad emails, even though a lot of them are getting blocked, there's still some getting through. Your people are your last best hope. Help me, Obi-Wan. This is the kind of thing you want your people to know, that you take security seriously. and you want them to know what to do. You want to create your own neighborhood watch in your business. And by the way, this is even more important with remote workers because they're less likely to say something or to hear something that there's a problem. So you want to really figure this out because you want your people involved on this. It's a see something, say something, and the more eyes you got on it, the better it's going to be. So you want to give them training and you want to measure it. And I say you want to, these are all recommendations. That's our goal is I say you want to because, I think it's optimal, right? We're talking about optimal results here for best practices, not mediocre results. But again, this is all up to you, but we really recommend it. So you want to do training. You want to do it as part of their onboarding. Sometimes you like train your team and then you forget about the new employees that start. How are they learning about what to do? We still recommend the email phish testing and reporting. People are still reliably clicking. Smart people are clicking. People with PhDs are clicking. It's just, they're really good at getting people to take the bait. So you want to make sure people are learning. You want to get education. You want to make sure people that handle money are getting educated the most because, you know, they're trying to manipulate you. They're manipulating your trust. They're going to create that fear, that urgency. It's a total con game, but they're really good at it. And now, they've got AI to help with it. So now it's going to be even better looking in the sense that it's really bad. It's going to look exactly like something you think somebody would send, or close enough for you to not give it a second thought when you're having a bad day or when you're trying to leave the office at the end of the day before you go on vacation. So social engineering is a big con game, and you want to be training your people about how not to get conned. You want to, this I left up here because you still see some of these flags and things like that. You still get some, social engineering, emails and things that come through where you get misspellings and that kind of thing. And you definitely want to be looking at the domains things come from because, you know, a lot of times they're doing fake domains that look similar to things that you expect. But again, with the AI, it's looking really good these days. It might even be a better grammar and look more human than what some humans write. So the artificial intelligence stuff, we have a whole other webinar about AI and using, specific tools like Microsoft Copilot for AI and Microsoft 365. But in terms of security here, like I said, it just makes things worse. Better for the security or for the hackers, better for some of the security personnel because we can use some of this AI to help, augment our forces. But make no mistake, it's a bad scene. That is the attacks are, hold on one second, let's see. The attacks are getting very sophisticated. They're efficient. They can happen so quick, they can generate malicious content. What I mean is, like, they can create words, they can create pictures. A lot of the pictures I have in this presentation were just done in a few seconds by asking an AI to generate a picture with a few basic prompts. So it's getting more sophisticated. You're going to see them attacking each other because guess what? They've got AIs that are, like I said, are going to be attacking. But well, guess what the features are of some of the security products that you buy to protect yourself? AIs. The AIs themselves, if you use them, there's some exploits now. If you're not familiar with AIs, I don't want to go into a deep conversation, but they have memories. In order for them to be effective, they have memories. And like ChatGPT and Copilot, they remember a bit about what you're talking about here and questions you've asked and data you've provided. Well, guess what? There's an exploit found where they could corrupt the memory of the AI. Yeah. So hang on to your seats. This is just the beginning of craziness. We got deep fake stuff going on. That's the people that look like someone famous saying something that is just not true. It's not them saying it. It's not their words. Photos we see all the time that get photoshopped. We used to call it photoshopped. Well, Shockingly, if it seems to hit your bias, you tend to believe it, even if it's fake. But some of this stuff is going to be, it's going to sound like me calling you because my voice is all out over the internet. So, and lastly, the automated target selection. Again, much faster at figuring out who to attack and why, and um, how to make the scams more important or more effective. Again, great use of skills for a terrible purpose, but nonetheless, it's coming, and you want to be really on top of it. Credit reporting and ID theft and fraud. You want to start, if you have not already gone on and done and set up fraud alerts or credit freezes, I really recommend you do. And it's not easy. They've got lousy systems as far as I'm concerned. Or let's say, I won't call them lousy. There's lots of room for improvement. And they have to go in there and you have to create an account at each one and go through that whole process. You got to give them information to prove who you are. And then you set up an account and then you can go in and you can put a fraud alert on. A fraud alert is to verify that someone is actually has to verify your ID before approving credit, not just checking your credit, but that forces them to verify the ID. And there's some things written in the law about this, so they've got some things they have to follow. So you can put a temporary 1 year fraud alert on, which means no one can open new credit or do anything without verifying your ID. You can do an extended one, but you have to do proof that you were a victim of of an event that makes you more susceptible. Those will go out for 7 years, but you have to file paperwork. Or if you're active duty military, you can put things on fraud alert. A credit freeze is just from accessing your credit report. So with this, it would be no one new can access your credit report. But if you've already got a mortgage, they can go and access your credit report, but no one new can. So, I would go and put at a minimum, put credit freezes on things. If you're not buying anything, I would put stuff on fraud alert and, go back and do that every year. And you want to do it all the big credit reporting agencies, including that last one is kind of another one some don't always think about called a Novus. It's used in some circumstances and another place to protect your information. And why is this a wild ride? Because, the golden secret we all carry, our special social security number that nobody knows, is now probably breached and out there in the national public data breach that was out a few months ago. If you haven't seen that or heard about that, there's a company called National Public Data that had all kinds of credit reporting information with social security numbers, names, date of birth, email addresses, things like that. And that all got breached. That's all out on the internet. And I would recommend you go to npdbreach.com and you go search, but you'll probably find your social security number on there. And don't do that right now. Wait till my presentation's over here. But go check. But it's probably breached. And that's, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't claw it back. It's out there. And so your little golden ticket of knowing your social security number is no longer protective. All this almost always has to do with money. So we still run into people that are, wiring money all the time as part of their business, sending money, asking for money, payments, invoices. I mean, that's the name of the game in business, right? So anyone that's dealing with money, payment instructions, when you get those emails from your client saying, hey, can you start sending, payments to this address? Or not your client, your customers? Or I'm sorry, your clients, yeah, start sending payments to this address, things like that. They shift stuff up. You want to verify that that's legit, that it wasn't just a simple blanket change of address request, that invoices really should be going to the old address and not this new email address that's now a fake one where they're going to try and intercept the invoices and go fool people. So you always want to call in directly, especially with large wires, anything cash. And you want to train all and new employees, anyone handling money. I'm also recommending a pre-shared code word or phrase for work and home, for friends and family, and for professional. Because again, with these deep fake technologies, and anyone wants to do this, there are people reliably getting bit every day, taking the hook and losing money. Sometimes it's, there's cases of the grandparent getting called and it's saying it's their grandkid saying, "Hey, I'm in jail and I need $2,000 and don't tell mom and dad, wire the money here." And it sounds like them because it is their voice because they were able to scrape it from social media or something like that. So you don't know. So we recommend, and we have this for our family, and we're going to be doing this for all our clients, is having a pre-shared code word that's unique and not something that is easily guessed. And that becomes the thing that, is not, doesn't show up in a document, but something that you know to verify. And it's real simple. So have fun at Thanksgiving when you're home with your family. Come up with a family code word. What's the safety word there if something is awry to prove you're you, because you or someone you love or one of your clients is going to need this. I'm pretty certain about that. And then it's scary. It's very scary, but we recommend it. We still have lots of passwords and security secrets to keep, passwords, passphrases, our dog's name when growing up, all those kinds of things that we might put in. We might be sharing passwords with people at work that we need to share, and those little 6-digit security codes that, are a pain and only one person has them on their phone because they've got it. Well, guess what? They've got some systems out there that we recommend if you have those kind of needs to do that, which is a password manager. And the idea of them, especially the enterprise ones, is you can, make sure everybody's using it. You can securely share passwords inside your organization. You can securely deny access to passwords for people when they leave your organization. And it's even got an emergency mode. And this is a great one. By the way, everything I'm telling you here is not just for work, it's for your whole life, for your personal life. All of this all still fits. So one of the other nice features of the password managers is something called emergency mode. And the emergency mode, you can put an emergency contact in, and you can put a time frame associated with it. Um, so for example, my sons went off to school. They've got their password managers set up, and they've got myself in as an emergency contact. If I go and request their passwords right now, they're going to get an email saying, "Hey, Dad's requesting passwords." If they don't reply to the email within the set time period that we have, meaning if they're not replying to it, it's probably they're incapacitated or dead or something awful, and I need those passwords. If they don't reply to that email, I'll get it after 24 hours. Now, that's a real handy thing you want for people in your life where you don't want to be messing around with trying to find passwords for maybe aging parents, for family members, for people you work with, business partners. These are things, if you don't have this handled now, as a best practice, to not only guard them, but put them in a way that you can get access to them when you need them is going to be a real challenge afterwards because some of these passwords, there's just no way to recover them. Because of encryption. Encryption is, what ransomware uses. It's what these password managers use. It uses encryption so that it securely takes your data and makes it from something that you can easily read with the human eye into something that looks like gibberish to the human eye, and the ability to do it backwards so you can eventually see it, that encrypt decrypt, kind of like those old, the placemats when you are at the restaurant and the kids are pulling out the crayons, and in the back of the password there's a little code, an A is a 1, a B is a 2, a C is a 3, and then they write out a code in numbers and you decode the thing that says, "Hey, have a nice day," or whatever. And but you know what? And we talked about data exfiltration before. That's happening. So if you've got data that you are concerned about someone getting outside your organization, there might be some ways to protect it such that if they're outside your organization, they cannot see or get access to the data, or if they leave the organization, or if they're not the intended recipient of the data. But you want to be thinking about this ahead of time, and you also want to be encrypting all your storage media. So laptops, phones, desktops, flash media, anything that can be lost or stolen is also something that you'd like to have encryption on. So we recommend it. Back in my day, love the back in my day stories. Back in my day, when we first started setting up computers 20, 30 years ago, people were, was it 30 years ago? Yeah. You would have like administrators on the system, and basically everyone had an administrative rights. They could install software, they could run the systems, it didn't make a difference, they could go do all that. And with most computers nowadays, it's locked down a little bit better where, if you try and install software in a computer, either you don't have rights or you have to enter a second password or something. That's kind of a form of, it's trying to lock things down and least privilege. Like if they don't need rights to install software, then they shouldn't have rights to install software. And maybe they shouldn't have rights because guess what? If they're a malicious insider or accidental clicker, then they're going to be able to do what they can do with the rights they have. So you really don't want people running around as administrator day to day. But you also don't want people to have access to data that they don't really need access to. So if you've got a finance folder in your data and you've got a sales and marketing folder, and the sales and marketing people don't need access to that finance folder, don't give them access to the finance folder. It's that simple. That's a concept of least privilege. It's a little extra work, but if they don't need access, restrict access. It'll keep it more secure. And then if the salesperson's ever hacked or decides to be a malicious uh, uh, person on the way out, then they can't get at the finance information. That's the least privilege. So you want to be looking, where are you restricting things? Accounting systems. Is everyone an administrator on the accounting system? Or have you got it locked down such that it's set up the way you want it? So you just want to give people permission to where they only need permission. This is just more of a message about it's not just the computers, it's other things. It's printers. It's other things on your network. It's camera systems. It's phone systems. It's things like that that are definitely insecure, definitely have uh, uh, patches and things like that. They're not likely, not at high risk, but again, once they're inside, everything potentially becomes a risk. And for us, this HP is not a printer, it's a computer that can print. There's a computer inside this thing that's got a screen and the ability to take data and shoot it out onto paper. So, yeah, so you want to make sure that everything is protected in your systems. Also, where are you in compliance? Where do you have compliance needs? This is another area where you may have a blind spot. Compliance are the rules, the regulations of your industry, of your contracts, of your agreements with your customers, of federal regulations, state regulations, local regulations. There's lots of stuff out there, right? It's annoying. Some of it's useful because sometimes they put these things in place because people don't tend to their business and it makes the world unsafe for others. That's why we can't have nice things. But nevertheless, we have rules, and a lot of times you are subject to those rules or you've agreed to the rules by signing a contract. So you've agreed to them. Are you actually fulfilling on them? Are you in compliance with them? Is that a problem if you're not in compliance with your cyber insurance policy? Well, it's only going to be a problem if you need a payout and they're like, sorry, see this provision here that said you had to patch your computers within 60 days? And this was a patch you got hit from something from 90 days ago? We're going to reduce your payout from $1 million to $100,000. That's that kind of stuff. If you work with the government, anything military, um, healthcare, if you do work in Europe or in California, lots of stuff out there. Credit cards. And by the way, what are you including in your contract language for your customers and your business partners? Do you have any language in there that says they should attend a security webinar once in a while and make sure they're doing things safe? Are they a critical business partner or a critical customer? Might be a good conversation to have. By the way, if you're interested in, you've got a customer base and you're not sure they're doing this, we're happy to do this kind of presentation for you for your customers. Educate them, have them be safe. Like I said, it's a neighborhood watch and the neighborhood expands or extends beyond your business walls. Community watch. So remember I said it's not a product, it's a process. Well, there is a product piece to it for a lot of these things because you do need some products to enable some of these things. So there's different solutions and services out there. If you're doing all of these and it's being done well, you know, and I really encourage you to look at who's doing it and how they're doing it because that really makes the difference. I've seen proposals from competitors where they're installing equipment and configuring it for security, and they've got like a quote for 2 hours. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking this is more than that. This is a bigger project to really make it secure and to do what needs to be done. It might be 4 hours or 8 hours. So if they're doing it in 2 hours, what are they not doing? What's missing there in that configuration, in that monitoring, in that future management? It's not a place to skimp. So you want to make sure you're kind of checking the boxes on these bullet points. I should make these into check boxes and just make sure you're doing these things. And this is all stuff we just talked about by and large. Make sure you've got these things in place and that they're actively managed, monitored, updated, configured properly. These aren't always all set it and forget it services. Lots of other blind spots. I would bet with anyone out there, I bet anybody money that if I put a flash drive that said David and Zoe's, precious moments there and drop it in their parking lot at your office, someone's going to pick it up and put it into a computer and look at it. Probably. Likely. So those flash drives sometimes have malicious programs on them, right? That's a one way things can attack. Another blind spot, Internet of Things devices. Remember I showed you that printer before? How many of you have a conference room TV hanging on the wall that's plugged into the network? That conference room TV is not a TV, it's a computer with a big display attached to it. And that computer has software. And that software should be updated and patched. And if you can't update it and patch it, or if you don't need it, if you're just using it as a TV, unplug the network piece. Or put in a separate isolated network. So if it ever is a vector for attack, it won't hit the rest of your network. Bring your own device. It's very convenient. Everybody has phones these days and everybody has computers these days by and large. So, hey, as a business owner, we're not going to pay for a phone for you. We're not going to pay for your computer or your home computer to remote into the office. You can use that. We're not going to spend the money. And I get it. It's expensive to provide people a laptop to use for home and something else to use at the office. But guess what? You've now given those computers at home access to your systems. It's called BYOD, bring your own device. So do you have a policy written up on that of what people can and can't do on their computer at home? Or what they should be doing is that they need to have proper antivirus and keep their home computer patched and things like that? Blind spot for some of you. So there's more. Your website is your website. Sometimes the website is the attack vector or just a separate issue. You may not have a lot on your website, but you don't want it defaced. You don't want it down if it needs to be up and running. And a lot of the websites today integrate with our business systems, with our marketing systems, with our accounting systems. So if the website is the front end for that and the website's attacked, and you may not even manage your website, you're paying someone else to do it. So lots of things I'd watch out for those QR codes. We got very used to using the QR codes during COVID, for the touchless menus and things like that. QR codes, you can just go on the internet and say, free QR code, and you can type in an address and it'll create a QR code for you. And you can print those out, make stickers, and put them all over town. Put them right over the top of the other QR codes. So you just want to be watching out for these things. There's just challenges there. The mere fact of your people being remote, more challenging. Communication doesn't flow as well. So you want to be looking out for these kind of blind spots as well. This is again where the security assessment comes in. This gets, more of a deeper conversation, but again, you want to know what you've got, what to protect, and what to do. So this is the best practices from what's on here, so you can take a look at this. But the best practice in orange there at the bottom, just take 20 seconds, 30 seconds right now. Drop in a calendar appointment for yourself for when you're going to take your next action on security. Maybe it's to order a security assessment. Maybe it's to educate your team. Maybe it's to re-listen to this presentation. Maybe, I don't know, but you want to get into action because it's just like I said, it's not getting any better out there in the sense that, you're more protected. It's just getting worse. It's going to be a wild ride for a while, and you want to be, try ahead of the game. It's a journey. There's a cost. I get it. This is not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy, and it's not inexpensive. Now, some things are pretty inexpensive or, to do. Some of it, you've already got in place and you just haven't turned it on, like multi-factor on your email. We recommend you do that. Things like that. So these are the best practices, but, grab your calendar right now and just put something on the calendar for yourself. Whatever that next action is. That's really where a big difference is going to be made, is you getting into action and not just thinking about this, but really doing something about it. My gosh, I actually finished on time today with a few minutes to spare. So thank you for being here today. Thanks for your listening, and we'll take some Q&A here if you've got any questions. Who else should be hearing this message? Do you need to be bringing this back to your team at work? Do you want to do something with your customers and have us come in and speak to them about what this is, to your customers, your critical business partners? Maybe you're on a board of directors somewhere, you're involved in your church or some other thing. And like I said, this isn't just for your work, this is everywhere for security. And we're all in this together, and it's a real challenge. And, it's ripple effects throughout. Either, we're all going to get hit in one way or another. It's not how bad, it's not if, but when and how bad. And the more we can educate people, the more we can get action. I think we're going to really bend the bar on that. It'll be less often and less impactful. And then maybe the hackers will go away someday. We'll see, but don't count on it. Anyway, so that's what I got. Any questions? I'll be here for a couple minutes. Otherwise, thank you so much. Have a great day. Be safe. Have fun with Halloween. Enjoy the candy. And we'll see you at the next webinar. Oh, there's going to be a survey coming out as usual. There's going to be the survey and a link to the webinar and to a copy of the slide deck for your use. So please complete that. Let us know how we did. Let me know how I did. Let me know your thoughts on what you'd like to see in the future. For those of you that have been here before, thanks for coming again. For those of you that are new, thanks. Hope to see you again in the future. And take care.